Do you ever question whether or not you have enough faith to believe God for something big, for healing, for deliverance, for promotion, for increase? What if I told you your faith isn't the problem? It's where you've been placing it. You're trusting your strength, your plans, your routines, and wondering why nothing is shifting. But listen, the reality that you're living in right now is being shaped by what you've chosen to trust in. Give me a few minutes and I'll prove it to you. Trust me. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. Listen, do you realize that every one of us is trusting in something? Something. Every day you trust in something. You trust that when you turn on your light switch, the lights are going to come on. You trust that when you go to your employer, they're going to pay you. We trust in money, connections, control, or maybe ourselves. And most people don't realize it, that the very thing you're trusting is the thing shaping your outcome, your life's outcome. Like when your faith is placed in anything other than God, even something that looks good, it will eventually collapse because you're striving to make it happen. You're doing everything in your power and with the gifts and talents that God has given you, exclusive of Him, to try to make things happen in your life. And misplaced confidence doesn't always look wrong until it fails you. You know, if you remember 1 Chronicles 21, even David, a man after God's own heart, made this mistake because in 1 Chronicles 21, he ordered a census to be taken, wanting to count his soldiers. He wanted proof of his strength, something to see. But what he couldn't see and what he didn't realize was that in that moment, his confidence has shifted from God to numbers. What has your confidence shifted in? Yeah, you go to work. Yeah, you should receive a paycheck, right? But if you don't receive that paycheck, will you get upset? Will you get frustrated with God? Well, God, why didn't you make them pay me? Why didn't this happen? Why didn't you heal me? Why didn't you cover my children? Why didn't you do this, God? Why didn't you make them people accept my payment arrangement? Understand this. God always wants your confidence to be in Him and nothing else. With David, the result was destruction. Because whenever we trust in what we can measure, we limit what God can multiply. If you have a following, if you do anything with social media, people shift. They confidence shift from God and what God gave them as a gift and a talent to use for His glory to let me look at how many numbers I got, how many followers I have, how many people looking at me. Because I know the more people I have looking at me, I'll earn more money or I'll get brand deals and all the things. Their confidence shift. That's why David later wrote, some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but we trust in the name of the living God. That's Psalms 20. David realized that his strength isn't safety. Numbers aren't security. God is. So today I want to pose this question to you. If things aren't shifted and things aren't happening in your life, can you look at your life and say, what are you putting your confidence in? Because whatever you're putting your confidence in, that's shaping your reality. You're creating your reality by what you trust in. And so if you're trusting in anything else outside of God, a spouse, family members, your children, your job, whatever it is, anything outside of God, you've made that thing, that person, your source. It's only supposed to be a resource God has given to you to bless you for His glory, but you have now made it your source. So when it's not moving and acting and doing what you wanted to do, you get frustrated. You do. And a lot of times that's what happens with us. We're striving and working at the wrong things, trying to make it work, trying to make it happen. When the reality is God says, rest in Him, trust in Him. And if you're measuring the peace that you'll have by what you can control, you'll always live anxious when things move beyond your reach. That's why so many people are struggling with stress. And I'm not discrediting stress. We all have it in some form or fashion. But stress normally comes from when we are trying to force things to happen in our own strength when God never told us to. God wants us to trust in Him with all of our hearts and lean not to our own understanding. God anointed David to be king. David always trusted in God. David wasn't perfect. He shifted sometimes, trusting in his own powers, trusting in his own strength, trusting in his superiority in his position that God had given him, right? And he a lot of times overstepped his boundaries. And we do the same thing. And if your peace leaves you when your plans change, your trust was never in God, it was in your plan. You plan to save for this. You plan to go here. You plan to apply for this new job. You plan to open up this business. And you did everything you could to make those things happen. But then when the floor falls out of it, you get frustrated. Why? Because you did everything outside of trusting God. You created that plan. You decided to open that business. That was not God's will for you in that moment. And maybe God has given you the dream and the vision that he was going to do that thing through you, right? But you got ahead of God. You got ahead of him. See, when David took that census, they weren't even at war. A census was ordered by God in Numbers with Moses. But it was only when they were getting ready to go in war. In this time, David was not getting ready to go to war, so there was no reason to count his men. He wanted to take pride. And you have to be careful of that. Because the enemy will rise up in you and cause you to do things. Why? God has anointed you. God has given you a gift to do something. And to get in pride and to do it in your own strength, the enemy will always say, you got a debt problem, right? You need money. Well, you know how to get a bag. You know how to do this. You know how to manipulate this. You know how to fill out that loan application. You know how to change your pay stubs. You know how to change the paperwork. All of that is getting you in pride. So that now you're responsible for that loan payment. You're responsible for making things happen for yourself. You're responsible for getting yourself out of debt. See, we still take our own census today. It just looks different. We count followers, we count income, we count validation, we count likes, we count on our bank account, we count on our employers, or even our own prayers. We count on our prayers being answered. And then when God doesn't answer in the way we want him to, we get frustrated. But here's the danger in that. You can have faith but not trust. Faith believes God can. Trust believes that he will when you don't see how. When you don't see how. God's not trying to take your confidence. He's trying to redirect it. What if the delay wasn't punishment but protection for you? What if the closed door wasn't rejection but redirection? When your trust in him, even disappointment becomes divine alignment because you know God is redirecting you to something better. When God removes what you trusted in, it's never to destroy you. It's to restore your faith in him and him alone. So let me prove it again. What you trust in is creating your reality. Trust God fully and watch peace return where pressure used to live. Trust me, he's not done with your story yet. He's not. He's not. The moment you shift your trust from God to yourself, your peace will leave. But when you place it back in his hands, your reality begins to shift and change. If you trust in God and God alone, and you know you do, not in your resources, not in your plans, not in your own abilities, I want you to type down in the comments, trust reset. My sister and brother, trust God, because whatever you're trusting in today is creating your reality. I want to prove to you that you are creating your reality by this video. Like and subscribe, my sister and brother, for more inspiration in motivating you to trust God and God alone. Because your faith isn't a problem. It's where you're putting your faith and your confidence. Shalom.